Now that you have set up your map, you will style your layers and begin to craft a well-designed map. Visually, we will want the land ownership in Sagegrouse Habitat to have the highest weight. Canada and Mexico are there for reference, but should fall into the background. We will make them both light gray. So double-click on the Canada layer to open the Layer Properties window. Click on the Style tab. In the Symbol Layers box, click on Simple Fill. Find the Symbol Layer Type box on the right side of the window. This allows you to change both the fill and outline symbols for this polygon layer. Click on the colored box to the right of Fill to open the Color Picker window. Click on the button with the blue arrow to add the color to the custom color buttons after we set the following values. So for hue, set 0, for saturation, set 0, and for value, set 90. Click the blue arrow and you'll see that in our custom colors, we have that color set, so we can always go back to it more easily later. Click OK to set the color. Back in the Layer Properties window, for the border style, make sure that Solid Line is selected, and then click OK. Now we can see that Canada is gray and has a solid black line. Open the Layer Properties for Mexico, and we're going to do the same thing to make it look like Canada. So once again, Simple Fill. Click on the Fill button to bring up the color picker. Since I saved it for quick reference, I just have to click this button here, and that brings back up the 0090 for HS and V. I'll click OK. Make sure that border style is solid line, and then click OK. And Canada is now the same color as Mexico. So we're going to use the same workflow, and we're going to give the state boundaries a white fill and a solid black border. So once again, state boundaries, I'm going to double click to bring up the Layer Properties. Click on the Simple Fill. For the fill, I'm going to choose white, but instead of manually choosing white, I'm going to go over to the color ramp. I'm going to have multiple options here. I can do it in the color ramp, where I can move this around to choose different colors. That's not the most efficient way. So I can go over to the color wheel. I can drag this little dot all the way down here, and you can see that it's white. Or in the color swatches, I happen to have under standard colors the color white, and I could choose it that way as well. So I'm going to click OK, and that set the fill as white. And I want to make sure that the border is black and solid line, and it is. So I'm going to click OK. Now you can see that the states are white with a black outline. So now we will style the land ownership layer, but instead of making the entire layer one color as we've done thus far, we will assign a unique color to each land managing agency. So how do we know who is managing each parcel? Well, that's contained in the attribute table. So I'm going to right click on Federal Land Ownership, choose Open Attribute Table, and you can see that there are 13 columns. And the AGBUR column is a column that has the ownership information. So I'm going to close the attribute table. I'm going to open up the Layer Properties for the Federal Land Ownership by either double clicking or right clicking and choosing Properties. I'm going to switch to the Style tab. And in the symbol type, I'm going to click the down arrow, and we're going to choose Categorized. Now that we have Categorized chosen, I'm going to choose the AGBUR column, and then I'm going to click the Classify button to classify all the results. Notice that there's a symbol with no values here. These are parcels with null values in the AGBUR field. And again, null values mean there's just no value associated with it. They represent private and state in holdings within federal lands, and since we're just interested in depicting federal land ownership, we're going to delete that symbol class. So select it, and then choose Delete. So for the remaining federal land ownership symbols, we're going to use the BLM Styles Manual for land ownership maps. and that's located at the URL in the lab, but we also have provided a copy of it in your lab directory. And so let me bring that on screen here. It's this PDF, and if you open that up, let me resize it here. This gives you the official colors that you would normally use to style the map. And so we could enter the CMYK or RGB colors into QGIS. But I've already set these aside for you, and so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and change the colors. And so let's start with the BLM. So I'm going to double click on the little square next to BLM. That's going to bring up the symbol selector. I'm going to click on Simple Fill, and I don't want any border lines on these polygons. So with border style, select it and choose No Pen. Next, we're going to click on the Fill button to bring up the color picker, and we're going to change the red value to 254, the green value to 230, and the blue value to 121. We're then going to click OK, and OK once again. As you can see, for the BLM, it's set that color. And so we're going to do the same thing again, but for all of the others. So I'm just going to run through these very quickly. So for BOR, click Simple Fill, No Pen Border Style, click on the fill color, and 255, 255, 179. OK, OK. Go on to the next one. Simple Fill, No Pen. For the colors, we're going to do 251, 180, 206. And then for FS, Simple Fill, No Pen. For the colors, 179, 222, 105. Oops, went too far. Let's try that again. 179, 222, 105. For the FWS, Simple Fill, No Pen. For the fill color, 127, 204, 167. Oops, forgot to hit No Pen. Good. For NPS, Simple Fill, No Pen, and 177. And I'm just hitting Tab twice to go between fields, by the way. That makes it a little bit faster. And then for Other, Simple Fill, No Pen, 150, 150, 150. And they're all set. So now I can click OK. And now you can see the colors for the federal land ownership, but the Sagegrouse Habitat is still kind of obscuring it. So over in the Layers panel, I'm going to check the X to remove it, so that way you can see it a little bit better. So now we're going to set a background color for the map. Since states are filled with white, setting a background color of light blue will serve to represent the Pacific Ocean. So for the menu bar, choose Project, Project Properties, click the General tab, and then next to the background color, I'm going to click the color patch to bring up the Select Color dialog. And I'm going to set the RGB value to 225, 255, 255. I'm going to click OK and OK. And now you can see the Pacific Ocean is light blue. And you can also see that over here the eastern states are light blue, but we're not going to be showing that in the map, so we don't have to worry about that. And we'll handle it here in a minute anyway. Okay, so the states are white with a black border, and they serve to show non-federal land as white, which is great. However, the state boundaries are obscured since state boundaries are below federal land ownership in the Layers panel. So let's fix that. So I'm going to go back to the browser panel. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to add Western states back to the Layers panel as the top layer. We can have multiple copies of layers for cartographic purposes. So I'm going to open the Layer Properties window for the Western states, and then I'm going to select the Style tab. I'm going to click on Simple Fill, and I'm going to give the fill style of no brush. So that's going to make it hollow. Now I'm going to click OK, and now you can see that the topmost western states, we can now see the state outlines on top of the federal land ownership. So this is what it looked like before. This is what it looks like afterwards. So the last layer to work with is the Sagegrouse Habitat. We're going to make the Sagegrouse Habitat polygons to have a cross-hatch pattern. This will allow the map reader to see the land ownership data beneath. So I'm going to turn back on the visibility of the Sagegrouse Habitat. I'm going to open the layer properties for it. I'm going to click on the Style Simple Fill button, and I'm going to change the fill color to 170, 0, 255. I'm going to change the border color to RGB 142, 0, 213. And for the fill style, I'm going to choose F diagonal, and I'm going to change the border width to 0.46. And I'm going to click OK, and now we get this. And let's save our project by clicking Project, Save.